All right, guys, looks like we are live. Yeah, a couple of you guys are saying, "Can I speak to the manager?" um, 8:30 Kyle time. That is a very real statement, man. I run on my own time. My own time is always at least 10 to 15 minutes late, especially when it comes to these streams. Appreciate you guys' patience and lack thereof, as long as it results in a funny joke. But hope everybody is doing great out there tonight. I decided to throw together a little bit of a live stream slash podcast style thing. Thought that it would be a lot of fun, honestly. And this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. So I don't know if I'm going to keep rolling with this on a regular basis as it stands right now. That's going to be up to you guys and whether you enjoy this type of format or not. So basically, what I want to do is I just want to come to you guys with a live stream like this. We've been hanging out a lot on live streams over the last couple of months, but I kind of want to come to you guys with some predetermined topics and kind of share my thoughts about them and then jump into your guys' comments and everything as we go and kind of build upon whatever it is that I may be talking about in the moment. Not really sure if that's something that you guys are into, but I thought that it would be a fun thing to do. We can start bringing on guests and stuff like that. I already have a couple of people in mind who I thought would be fun to bring on if this does turn into a regular show. So that is the premise of what we're doing. It's going to be a little truncated tonight because I didn't really have a whole lot of time to plan for it and think about it. And also, my girlfriend is going to be home a little earlier than I thought. And one of the reasons I was doing it tonight, trying it out tonight, is because I had the house to myself. So instead, we'll keep it nice and brief. We'll talk about a couple comments. We'll get your guys' thoughts on this format. And yeah, that's what I got. So as far as that goes, that's the premise. That's what we're rolling with right here. But what do you guys think? How is everybody doing tonight? We got somebody saying rude that I'm late. Man, you're gonna have to get used to it. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. That's how I roll, dude. Michael says, hey, what's going on, Michael? Use Tuber 5000. Hit the like button. Yes, do me a huge favor, guys. Hit the like button. I am gonna share this around my social media sites real quick, but in the meantime, it is that season. It's Black Friday. It's holiday shopping season. Is there any deals? Are there any deals that you guys have come across that have kind of caught your eye that you think would be good to share with the belligerent amateur community? Are there any really good gear deals going on right now? Have you guys already picked everything or anything up that you have already wanted? Because it kind of seems like people have started the deals early this year. They've started their shopping early this year. And it really seems like, the more that these holiday sales and these consumer holidays, as I like to call them, and I'm not an original in that. Don't think that I think that I'm clever. That's just, that's a very common conception of how especially Thanksgiving and Christmas are these days. They have basically become consumer holidays. They're not nearly as much about, hanging out with the family as they used to be, which is kind of a bummer because that is definitely what I look forward to the most. It's kind of easy for me to say that though, because I have a lot of, possessions. So I don't really want for a lot these days. It's probably a little different for people who don't have as much, who aren't as fortunate as I am. And I totally get that. But again, I think family should always take precedent over anything else. This is not gear related whatsoever. And I'm already going off on a tangent. That's going to be a common theme when I do these podcast style episodes. But yeah. So Michael says it's cold. Yes, it's cold. It's a Skyrim joke. Okay. I am not really much of a gamer. I used to be when I was younger, but I don't really play games anymore, unfortunately. So Skyrim is one of the ones that definitely got by me. Grawl rocks. Have you tried the Badlander 25 yet? No, it was just released yesterday. The press release was yesterday, so haven't had a chance to try it yet. I will definitely try to get one out here as soon as I can if that's something that you guys are interested in seeing on the channel. I know pretty much anytime I bring the Badlander out, you guys are all about it. So If you guys want to see a Badlander 25 on the channel, let me know, and I will hit up either Sweetwater or Zounds. In case you guys missed it, I am now a Zounds affiliate. So if you guys, for whatever reason, don't shop with Sweetwater, you want to shop with Zounds, that's your preferred retailer, and you want to help your boy out, I now have a Zounds affiliate link, and it's actually quite nice in my favor. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. So if you guys buy anything from Zounds, I get a nice little cut, a nice little kickback, and it costs you nothing extra. So again, that's something, don't go out of your way to buy something from either of those retailers just to help me. But if you are going to buy something from either of those retailers, make sure to stop by the channel, go down in the description of one of my videos and click those affiliate links. I would greatly appreciate it because it's a huge help. It helps a lot, not only in the monetary sense, but it shows those guys that you are watching my videos and that them basically being a sponsor of the channel in a roundabout way is kind of worth it for them from a marketing standpoint. So hope that all makes sense. But yeah, want to see the Badlander 25. Badlander 25 looks sweet other than the EL84 power tubes. Yeah, unfortunately, man, when we get to those smaller heads, it seems like they all are running on those EL84 power tubes, and I'm not a huge fan of those unless I'm playing the amp strictly at low volume. But I mean, not really a low volume player. I know that there are a lot of people out there who only play at low volume, but I'm kind of the opposite of that. I kind of only like to play loud, or else it's not really all that fun for me. So you wonder if the Badlander 25 is better than the Mini Rectifier 25. Yeah, no idea, man. The Mini Rectifier was one of my favorite mini amps that does have the EL84s in it. That was a really fun amp for me to demo. So, of course it's going to be subjective, but I really like the Mini Rectifier. And I think it's kind of going to be a hard amp to beat in that space. My personal opinion. Some other people weren't as big a fan of that as I was, but the Mini Rectifier kind of fixes a couple of things about the big rectifier that I don't necessarily love. So that's one reason why I liked it so much. Have I noticed an increase in used gear sometime after Christmas as people dump stuff they don't like? I can't say that I have ever really particularly noticed that, to be 100% honest. It really seems like before Christmas happens is when I see a little bit more of an increase in used gear going up for sale. Excuse me. I ate pizza before this podcast, and that was a bad idea, so I apologize in advance. But yeah, a lot of people, unfortunately, to get enough money to buy gifts for everybody during the holidays can be a really tough time for people financially. I do notice a lot of people dumping gear in order to basically be able to afford to buy gifts for their family. So I notice more gear sales leading up to the holidays than I do after the holidays, because after the holidays, people have gotten gear either as gifts or they have bought themselves gear as a gift, and it's usually something that they wanted. So I don't really see. In fact, I don't know. No, I can't make an educated statement on that, because I truthfully have never noticed a difference after. It's always before and during the holidays when I see stuff go up for sale, often for cheap, and that's typically the reason. So hopefully that nobody finds themselves in that situation this year, but economy's not great, so if you got to sell gear to make ends meet or whatever, I totally get it. That's a pretty common thing. It's something I've definitely had to do in the past before as well. It's just a part of life, man. The stuff that we don't need, the stuff that is non-essential in our lives, first thing to go. So extra music gear, definitely non-essential. Can you change the tube in the hybrid Marshall you just demonstrated? So that was the Marshall 3203, and the Marshall 3203 is a hybrid amp. It actually has EL34 power tubes. It's got two EL34 power tubes. It's technically a 30-watt power section, and it has a phase inverter 12AX7 tube. And the rest of the preamp, the entire preamp, is solid state. After that, it is EL34 power tubes and a 12AX7 phase inverter. So yes, you can change those tubes. Will those tubes make a big difference in the sound? Probably not going to make a huge difference, to be completely honest with you. So if they work and if the amp sounds good, then I would suggest leaving it be, because new tubes, new production tubes are quite a bit of a crapshoot. So you never know. You could buy brand new tubes and they could die on you a couple days later. I've had it happen to me a number of times. So new tubes doesn't always guarantee reliability, unfortunately. So KT88 Kerry King amp comes to mind, one of the good ones among signatures with a killer gate. I think I missed some chats here. Somebody mentioned that there are a lot of plugins that are on sale, and yeah, it seems like all the plugin manufacturers, I guess they're manufacturers, all the plugin software companies are having pretty much month-long sales on their plugins. So if you guys have been wanting to grab plugins from ML Sound Lab, if you've been wanting to grab plugins from Neural, STL Tones, I've seen sales from all of those companies, and they're all somewhere along the lines of being 50% off of their normal prices. So again, if you're looking to pick up plugins, now is definitely the time to do it. That's a good call. Whoever pointed that out, I appreciate you. I am having a hard time going back in the chat because I'm on my tiny little laptop here. Again, this is the first time I'm doing this podcast, so I would like to eventually get a better streaming setup, some sort of stream deck, probably a dedicated podcast corner or something. It all depends, but it all depends on how much you guys like this and if you watch it. So do me, again, as always, do me a favor, hit the like button, because that stuff actually does help, and it would be very much appreciated. It does go a long way in getting these videos in front of, more people. That's just how the YouTube algorithm works. The more engagement that your videos get, the more YouTube tends to suggest them to people who they think might actually want to watch it. So when you see people like myself asking for likes, begging for likes, whatever, that's why, because it really does help. It makes a big difference. So, it's just part of the game. So I am sharing this thumbnail over on my Facebook page, and then I'm going to share the link, and we can kind of get into the topics. I picked out a few random topics, things that are just generally on my mind. Again, the Black Friday deals were kind of a big deal for me. I'm always on the hunt for a deal, and I know that you guys are too. So again, if you guys want to drop any sort of deals on in the live chat here, I will definitely do my best to call them out, especially the ones that really kind of catch my eye, and hopefully you guys can score on those deals if you didn't know about them. That's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. The other one was I wanted to talk about guitars that I love, the EC1000 in particular. And the reason that I want to talk about that is I have recently grabbed a couple of EC1000s at great prices on the used market, and man, I just forgot how much I love these guitars. I forgot how great of a value they are on the used market. And I know a lot of you guys are fans of LTD and ESP guitars that watch my channel. Pretty much anytime I break one of those guitars out, it gets comments on the channel. So we do have a question in the chat. Kyle, are plugins as good as amps though? For recording, yeah, especially the neural stuff. The neural stuff is insanely good. But yeah, like ML Sound Lab, their stuff is incredibly good. The STL Tones, the only STL Tones plugin that I've tried is the Lossa Lambert suite, also incredibly good. Like, if you are strictly recording and you are strictly basically playing into an interface and you're not miking up your amps, you're using like a load box or something like that, there's no reason to buy amps over plugins at this point, guys. That's coming from a huge tube amp snob. That's coming from somebody who has a wall of tube amps sitting behind him, sitting beside him. I love tube amps. There is no reason to buy these anymore if you are strictly recording with a load box. You're strictly doing silent recording. Buy plugins. Plugins make a lot more sense. They are a lot more affordable. They when you record a DI, you can just reamp right on the spot. You don't have to reroute your signal and send it back out to something else in order to reamp. So yeah, that's my take on plugins. I think plugins are incredibly useful and really, really awesome. for recording. Somebody says plugins sound great but feel crappy. Yes and no, man. It all depends on the plugins. Again, I think that the neural stuff, the ML stuff, and the STL tones, all the stuff that I've tried from those companies have an awesome real feel to them. They don't feel like you're playing something solid state, like they actually react like an amp. They have dynamics like an amp. If your right hand is weak, a lot of those plugins, they're going to make you pay for it, just like the real amps would. The ML, the Dietzel ML, the Baseford, that's what it is. It's the Dietzel VH4 style plugin. That thing you got to work at in order to get some percussiveness, in order to get some saturation. Same thing with the Mega. I'm blanking on the names of the ML stuff off the top of my head, but basically the dual triple rectifier plugin that ML SoundLab released, that one is very fat and it's pretty stiff. So trying to play that with a weak right hand, man, you are gonna struggle. It's definitely got a real feel in the way that it reacts. So, Rob, love your videos. Rock on. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you guys for hanging out. So, tube amp feel affects your writing. It affects your play. Yeah. That's one thing that a lot of people don't take into. I am completely blanking on words right now, guys. This is a good start to the podcast, right? I can't even carry on a conversation. So, take into account is what I was trying to say and struggling. People don't take into account how much feel comes into how you play. So, like if I'm playing a particular plugin, I'm playing a particular amp when I am dialing something in to record a track, I'm going to play differently depending on what amp it is. Because if I'm playing something that's super easy to play, I may not be digging in quite as hard with my right hand. I may be getting a little lazy and not really, kind of watching my palm mutes, being super, super particular about the way I palm mute and the way that I strike the strings. But then if I go ahead and play, if I'm playing my splawn and miking up my splawn, or I'm playing something again like that ML Baseford plugin where you really have to work at it, that is going to be, that is going to have a huge effect on how you play. So that's why I kind of prefer to record tracks on something that's a little harder to play, something that's going to make you dig in a little bit more, because if it ever does get to the point where you want to change that plugin or you want to reamp that DI that you used, I think it's best to have a more percussive, a more attacky right hand DI track. That way it's going to translate to anything because, when you play hard, that works well on just about anything. But when you play soft or you play a little bit lazy, it's not going to work as well on every plugin. On a 5150, on an Omega Granifier, something easy to play, it's going to be fine. But if you try to translate that over to something that's stiffer, it's not going to translate very well. Your tracks are probably going to sound kind of weak. So, Evan says, "Hey Kyle, I have a question about amps. I use a Hughes and Kettner and I use headphones with it, but it sounds terrible with the headphones. If I use a cab will improve the sound. Thanks." Yeah, more than likely, man. I mean, it's going to depend on the cab, but pretty much playing guitar into headphones for me has been not a very satisfying experience. Pretty much every time I've done it, I've found myself feeling really disappointed. So I would always recommend playing through a cab. That experience is always better to me. Of course, not everybody's going to be able to have the opportunity to have space for a cab, to be able to play live or play loud enough where they can actually use a cab, and therefore monitors or headphones make a lot more sense for them. So monitors are still, in my opinion, anything that's going to move air and is going to not be just this enclosed little space like headphones. It's going to be a more enjoyable and more rewarding experience. So That's my personal take. I think that you're going to enjoy your playing experience with your Hughes and Kettner more if you're playing through a real cabinet as opposed to playing through headphones. But again, it's a subjective thing. It's different for everybody. If you only have played guitar through headphones for your entire playing career, whatever you want to call it, and then you move over to a cab, you might find it you don't like it as much because it's different than what you're used to, and you have to get used to playing through a cab versus just playing on headphones. So it's all sorts of considerations, man. So many things about guitar playing, so many things about tone are subjective, they're situational, and that's just something that you gotta keep in mind. Obviously a 412 and 120 watt amp isn't going to be great for every situation, and you have to adapt to the situation that you're given. So just like speaker cabs affect sound, headphones do too. They're speakers. They have an internal EQ. I have headphones I know are bright, some I know are dark, etc. Christian, 100%, great point, dude. I have multiple pairs of headphones lying around my house. Some of them are gaming headphones. One of them is a pair of DJ headphones. I've got a couple pairs of Bluetooth headphones, and they all sound pretty surprisingly different. If you're to put on one pair after another, the differences in those headphones are pretty drastic. So again, just like a speaker in a speaker cab, you're going to have to look for the right pair of headphones that's going to basically, you want something that's going to recreate the sound that's coming out of your plug-in or your amp headphone jack accurately, because coloring it in a certain way, it might benefit the sound, but more than likely it's going to be a detriment to the sound. So I think, I have a pair of gaming headphones that I actually surprisingly enjoy playing on my plugins and stuff through. And it's because they have a nice upper mid focus and they have a nice low end. So they kind of almost accentuate the frequencies that I like in guitar anyways. So, yeah, it's going to depend. Again, situational, depends on the equipment, blah, blah, blah. Scott Bino, everybody go over and subscribe to Scott's channel. Scott's an awesome dude. He makes awesome content, top quality stuff. Thanks for stopping in, Scott. He says, is it cold as balls in PA as well? Yeah, it was. This morning it was really, really cold, but actually I just stepped out of the house about an hour ago, and it feels like it's warming up a little bit. It's actually in the low 40s, which is warm compared to what it was. It was in the 20s for a couple of days, and we had a couple of winter snowstorms, so definitely not complaining about the low 40s after that. Droid34 says, hey, Kyle, how do you like the Randall 4x12 XL cab you bought? Which one, man? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 Randall XL cabs at the moment. I think 4, and all of them are a little bit different. So the Randall cab naming scheme is really odd and annoying. One of the things that I'm actually going to show in a video sometime here in the near future, how to shop for used cabs. But certain brands just have a lot of different variances in their cabs. Randall is one of those brands, and you definitely need to do a Google search of any Randall cab that you're going to buy and try to get the model number from the seller that's on that jack plate, because that model number not only denominates what series the cab is from, but there are XL cabs that have come with V30s. There are XL cabs that have come with G12 T75s. There are XL cabs that have come with G12 H100s. So there are all sorts of different XL cabs. There are the XLT cabs. Those are the oversized ones that are basically kind of meant to compete with Mesas. Some of my XL cabs have the metal grate on the front. Some of them don't. So there's all sorts of different XL cabs in the Randall lineup. They have the one that has two 12s and a 15-inch speaker. There's just a lot of variance in the Randall stuff. So with that being said, the cab that I picked up is the Randall 412 XL. I believe the model is like CV30, but it's got the vintage 30 speakers in it. It has the metal gray front. I actually already have one of those cabs. This is a second one, but they're good cabs. They are very, very good cabs. Some of the XL cabs, including the slant cab that I own that is actually for sale at the moment, have a partition through the middle. So it literally has a board through the middle that separates the top and the bottom speakers. If you are playing stereo, if you're running two different amps, this is kind of good because you can run one amp through the top two speakers, one amp through the bottom two speakers, and they both have their own dedicated chamber. It reduces phasing, but it cuts off a lot of the volume, the internal volume of the cab as well. So it makes the cab sound a little bit smaller, a little bit more focused. That could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. It all depends on what amp that you're going to play it with. I generally tend to find that it makes things a little too tight and focused sounding for my personal taste, and I tend to not like the cabs with that internal partition as much. I like the ones that don't have the partition because you get the full volume, airspace inside the cab, all the speakers, all the frequencies interacting with each other. I just think it sounds better that way. My personal opinion again. But so yeah, the one that I got last week has no partition. So it's a good sounding cab, especially when you get the older ones because those older vintage 30s do sound a little bit smoother than the newer ones. So anyone tried EV loaded super expensive Mesa cabs? I have a couple of the 212s that have the EV12L speakers in them. I know that people hype them up like crazy, but man, I gotta say, I'll take a V30 any day. That's my personal opinion. The EVs are just, I don't know, man. They're somewhat transparent and they're somewhat not. They definitely have a voice to them. They're pretty stiff. They're pretty cold. It might work with certain amps better than others, but I've just generally found that I like the voicing of V30s better, but I kind of like the voicing of V30s better than anything. So that's it's not really a surprise. And again, when you play something for so long, your ears tend to get used to it, going back to the whole headphones versus speaker cab in the room conversation we just had. If you are used to one thing, doing it for a long time, and then you move on to something new, it's going to take you a little while to adjust, get familiar with it, and generally you're going to tend to prefer whatever you started out on just because your ears are more used to that sound. So you were wondering about the Randall 412 cabs for a long time. No problem, man. They're great cabs. They, in my opinion, they rival Mesa cabs and can be had for much cheaper on the used market. Unfortunately, they're usually 16 ohm. I guess that's not unfortunate. Again, it's a matter of taste. The Mesa cabs are 8 ohm. I prefer 8 ohm speakers in general because they're a little bit more mid-forward. The 16 ohm speakers, because 16 ohm speakers, from what I remember, this is not a definitive statement, but from what I remember talking to Mike at Omega, talking to Nolly for a short time, 16 ohm speakers have a smaller voice coil or maybe a lighter voice coil. Again, don't quote me on this. Don't go around saying Kyle said this. This is what I remember hearing, but I do know that 16 ohm speakers tend to be a little bit brighter on top. The mids are not quite as forward. I generally tend to like 8 ohm speakers when compared back to back of the same models. So that's my preference. Kyle, your favorite cab with the Soldano is the Soldano cab. The Soldano cab is, I have a front-loaded Soldano cab from the era when Soldano was still making them before Boutique and Distribution took over. And I really like that cab with the Soldano amplifiers because of its construction. It is front-loaded. It's braced a little bit differently. It's a little bit smaller than your standard, like, say, Marshall 1960B cab. The internal volume is slightly smaller. And it's just a really punchy, focused cab. And Soldano amps are not super punchy and focused. They're a little bit looser on the low end. So it actually kind of complements each other in a really nice way. I think it's kind of funny because I'm assuming Mike designed his amps around his cabinets, or maybe he did it the other way around. I would guess he did it. The amps were designed around whatever cabinets at the time, and then he built his own cabinets. But the amps are a little bit loose in nature, a little bit almost mushy in the low end when you start to push the gain. But when you put it with those front-loaded Soldano cabs, it tends to make the low end much punchier without being small. It doesn't make the low end small. They're very, very full in the low end, but they just have a very quick, very percussive punch to them. And yeah, I really like the Soldano cabs with the Soldano amps for that particular reason. YouTuber 5000 says, I'm thinking of getting a 412 with WGS Reaper HPs and K100s, but I'm afraid it might be too dark sounding. So the K100 is not a dark speaker at all. It's actually quite bright on the top end. It's not super mid forward like a V30, but it is a very it's still quite a MIDI speaker overall. A lot of people like to say that they're kind of flat. I tend to find them pretty bright. They do have a bigger low end than a V30 for sure, but they're not a dark speaker. Again, the cab comes into play there. But the Reaper, pretty much anything from WGS is a little bit dark on the top end. So combining those two, it's going to depend on the 412 cab. If you go with something oversized, it may be a little dark depending on the oversized cab that you go with, but the K100 isn't dark, so maybe they'll balance each other out nicely, man. Unfortunately, you don't know until you try in a lot of situations, especially when it comes to speakers, because there's not a lot of good video. There's not a lot of good feedback on people trying speaker combinations that aren't already super popular, like a V30 with a G1275. The V30 with the DV77 seems to be the new popular speaker combination. So finding somebody who's combined those two speakers is probably going to be very unlikely for you. Trace Young says, hey Kyle, what cab and speakers would you recommend for the Rev Generator 120? Man, that's a good question. So the Rev generators, pretty much everything Rev has a very noticeable upper mid frequency that is very modern. And it's something that you cannot dial out of those amps. And I believe that Rev originally voiced their amps and shipped their cabinets with warehouse guitar speakers. So that could kind of explain that voicing if that's true. Because I've noticed that warehouse guitar speakers in general are quite a bit darker, quite a bit smoother than their Celestion counterparts. So, you know, it all depends. The generator, I can honestly say, wasn't a huge fan of it with my Mesa rectifier cab because of that upper mid thing going on. I liked it better. Definitely liked it better in my Redback cab. The Redbacks are a pretty dark and pretty smooth speaker. I found that it sat with those speakers a little bit better. I could see that amp also working really, really well with the DV77s. So the DV77 might be a good pair for it, but unfortunately I haven't tried it. The generator's sitting right here behind me, but I haven't plugged it in a little while. So I need to actually break that amp back out, because every time I plug into it, I'm reminded how great of an amplifier it is. And man, it's one of the problems of owning so many amplifiers is I don't really get to play most of them that often. So somebody said, Flaming Tower, is that what your name is? Said, any opinion on an Eminence DV77? Eminence DV77, great speaker, man. I really do think the DV77 will stand the test of time. It is currently a, trending speaker because it is a new speaker in the metal space that sounds good, and we don't get those all that often. We get a lot of big claims when it comes to new speakers in the metal guitar world, and usually they don't really live up. People find that out pretty quickly, and then they move on to something else, or they go back to V30s. So DV77 is a much smoother, more neutral speaker than the Vintage 30. I think it's a really well balanced speaker. I think it's a speaker that works really well with pokey amplifiers. And what I mean by that is amps that have kind of pokey frequencies that are hard to dial out, such as the Rev Generator. And also the Omega Grantifier has kind of an upper mid, modern mid voicing that you just can't get rid of. Like, it is not going anywhere. So it's good to use a speaker with that amplifier that's going to help smooth that out if you're not necessarily a fan of that modern upper mid. And the DV77 works great with that amplifier in order to kind of tame those mids. So I think the DV77 is a great speaker. V30 is still my choice, but again, that's what I played for years. It's going to be hard to break me away from that as my main speaker, but yeah. James3113 says, have I tried anything from Zilla cabs yet? I highly recommend a Zilla Super Fat Boy 212 cab loaded with DV77s. No, I haven't tried a Zilla cab yet. I would like to, though. I spoke to them a little while ago when they had a couple of pre-built cabs that caught my eye, and I hit them up, and unfortunately they sold before I was able to message them. But they did mention that they work with YouTubers, content creators, and they would offer me a discount. So it's something that I may pursue in the future. I did, however, order an Emperor cab about 3 weeks ago. Finally, I've never owned an Emperor cab of any sort. Very, very sparingly have I gotten the chance to play through them, so I'm super excited. I ordered one of their 412 RS cabs, which is like their mid-size cab. It's slightly oversized, front-loaded. So super excited to get that. I ordered it empty so that I could put whatever speakers that I want in it, because I have boxes of speakers that currently do not have a home inside of a cabinet. So I definitely didn't need any more loaded cabs coming my way. Dalton Peters says, "Oi, what's up, dude?" Have a pair of Warehouse Invaders. Great speaker. The 65 or the 90? Or no, the Invader is the 90, isn't it? No, I actually don't think that either of those are right. Sorry. They have quite a few models. I do like the ET65 quite a bit. I just installed a pair of the Retro 30s and the Dusty Waring 75 speakers. Haven't really got a chance to put them through their paces yet, though. So I'll report on those once I get some time, a little bit more time into them. Wise Guy says, rocking greenback 25s and DV77s in the same cab. I would be curious how that would sound. Greg Mackey says, hey Kyle, thanks for everything that you do. If I were to get a Synergy amp and the modules, will they sound close to the real amps? Yeah, they get pretty close, man. Will they sound identical? No. I think anybody who expects them to sound identical, you're living in a dreamland. Because look at the form factor versus the real amps. But do they do a great job at getting really, really close? Yes, they do. The Soldano Synergy module is still one of my favorite tones, period. I really, really like the Soldano Synergy module through the Syn 30 power amp. I have tried the VHT Pitbull and the Bogner Uberschall modules. Those both sound great. I've yet to play a module through my Syn 30 that I haven't liked, and they're all fairly close to the real amp. Again, are they going to sound the same? No. The power amp's going to make a big difference, as always. The power amps designed for the Synergy stuff are designed to be very, very clean. So if you put it through a different power amp that's not the Synergy power amp, that's going to color it a certain way. Keep that in mind. Steve-O says, Kyle, have you tried the EVH 412? Yeah, I had one a long time ago, and at the time I did not like it. I've been really kind of patiently trying to seek one out again. I'm really trying to get one of the Stealth 412s. They don't come up used very often, which is a bummer, but I noticed that they were a little bit darker and a little bit more hollow sounding than my EVH 412, or I'm sorry, Not my EVH 412, then my Mesa Rectifier 412 that I had and loved at the time when I had the EVH 412. Crazy enough, dude, I sold that cab for $400. I had it listed for $500 on Craigslist and on Facebook Marketplace for probably 6 months. It just sat, dude. That cab sat forever and nobody wanted it. And now when they pop up $700 or less, they are gone. So it seems like, originally nobody cared about those cabs, and then all of a sudden people found out that they were really well constructed cabs with greenbacks in them, and price went up. So at least a variation of the greenback. A greenback, isn't really a greenback. There's all sorts of different models with all sorts of different voicings. So all right. I missed a whole bunch of stuff because I keep talking. Yes, the pizza is jamming me up. Yes, it is. You are correct. I don't eat that stuff very often. Decided to treat myself tonight, and now I'm paying for it. Let's see what else we got going on here. So my original topics went out the window, but that's fine. I like answering your guys' questions. I like interacting with you. That's kind of why I like doing these live streams. Brad Olson, do you like G12M65 or G12H75 better? I prefer the H75. I think they're both good speakers. I have both of them in different cabs, but the H75 is more my speed because it has a more forward and aggressive mid-range, and you guys know how I like my mids. So H75 it is for me. I think the H75 is actually a great middle speaker. So Kyle, do you have a better way of describing the paperiness of greenbacks and redbacks? Do I have a better way? Yeah, it's kind of hard to put into words, isn't it? Of course, all the tone words that everybody uses, those, some people take them completely differently than others. I have said on multiple occasions, greenbacks have kind of a top-end sizzle to them. I don't think that they're bright, but they have a top-end sizzle. There's a frequency somewhere up in that top end that is very sizzly, and depending on what amp you use with that, that's a good or a bad thing. 5150s, in my opinion, not a great amp to put with greenbacks, but something like a Marshalls go great with greenbacks. Anything modern Marshall usually goes great with greenbacks. I guess in the papery sense, greenbacks break up quickly and they compress quickly, and it kind of brings out a weird mid frequency in them. I like it for some things. I definitely don't like it for metal, which is why I don't tend to use greenback cabs for my metal bands, and it's because of the way that the speaker compresses and breaks up. It breaks up early, especially compared to something like a vintage 30. So, I guess, no, I don't have a better way of describing it, honestly. It's one of those things where you know what people are talking about when they say it, but like it's harder to describe in detail to make sense to somebody who has not heard a greenback in person, I guess. So, yeah. Stephen Wolf, do the Synergy modules sound as big as a real amp in a band setting? I don't know what you mean. Like, as loud? Is that what you mean? Does it sound as loud? Or does it sound as full? Does it have as much headroom? It's going to depend on the power amp that you put it through, man, because the Synergy stuff was designed around the Synergy power amps, which are designed by Fryette. So Fryette makes a great power amp, but again, the power amp's going to have a big part in that overall sound and feel of each module. So I have only played my Syn 30 in a band context once, and it's 30 watts. So if we really pushed the volume, it couldn't hang. But that's really, we push the volume a lot in Bushido code, like to the point where it's completely unnecessary. So if I was playing in a more reasonable band, that 30 watts would be fine. But I definitely hit that point of running out of headroom the last time I used the Sin 30 live, because I was, we were playing so loud at the time. Plus, I was trying to compete with a Splon Quick Rod. It's hard for any amp to compete with a Splon Quick Rod because those things just have mids for days. They pretty much dominate a mix. So I think if you were to do the power amp, or the head shell that has the 2 module spots, it's 50 watts, you'd probably have no issues. And if you were to do the rack, the Sin 2 with the 50/50 power amp, you would have no issues. I don't think you would have issues with volume or headroom on either of those power amps. So Barry Prosser says, this is a cool idea, dude. Thank you, Barry. I'm glad. We got 60 people in here. Not bad for a Monday night, but I would like to do more than that, because most of my live streams typically have closer to 100 and some people. But again, usually they're coming to see what amp I'm playing. Tonight I'm not playing an amp, so I totally understand. What else is going on? What's a good alternative to V30s with a slightly lower frequency mid-range? The H75. Creamback H75. That's a good way to describe the Creamback, honestly. Dustin, look into that speaker for sure. Respect to the DV77, Mick Thompson's having Mike from Omega to be his guitar tech and being close to the development of the DV77 shows that most amps speakers are tuned to standard tuning because he knows tone. I don't really think that your statement makes sense, man, but I think I think I understand what you're saying. Maybe I don't, but it's a good speaker. So yeah, and Mike's a good dude, and he designs a great amp as well. So Arthur Gonzalez, thank you for the super chat, dude. I appreciate you. Thank you for showing support. Really appreciate you guys that support the channel. The super chats, again, I say this every time. Anytime people are willing to donate money to hear me talk, it kind of blows my mind. So I appreciate you guys. Jason Constantine, what's up, dude? But how is the bass? It's going to depend on the module, man. The bass is going to depend on the module. It's not so much the power amp. The 50-watt power amps do have a resonance control, which I think is important. But overall, the module is going to determine the bass more than the power amp. Anyone play a Red 7 Leviathan yet? No, unfortunately I haven't. I really want to. Just haven't got the opportunity to play one yet, unfortunately. That is an amp that or just a company in general that I really want to try out. Would definitely love to try pretty much anything. They have a new model coming out too called I think it's just called Dirt, or the Dirt. Sounds like it's kind of like a hot rodded 800 type thing, which you guys know that's right up my alley. I love modern Marshall circuits. So would be really, really cool to check that out. But yeah, anytime that I'm finally able to get my hands on a Red 7 something or other, you guys will know because I will post about it. Definitely going to be really excited to try their stuff out. So Mr. Spillify says another V30 alternative is the Marshall proprietary G22. I've actually never heard of that speaker. Oh, G12 Vintage. So the G12 Vintage was actually the original Vintage 30, if you guys don't know that. The first Vintage 30 was the Marshall Vintage. They had, I believe that they put them, I don't know if they first put them in the Silver Jubilee cabs, but I know that they were in the Jubilee cabs, and I believe that 87 was the first year that they started making them, so that timing would line up pretty well. But yeah, the Marshall G12 Vintage is the original Vintage 30, and of course, it became the Vintage 30 when Celestion put it into production as a general speaker. They tweaked the voicing a little bit because I believe that Marshall kind of has say on whether their proprietary voicings on their speakers can be mass produced or not when they strike deals with Celestion. But yeah. So that's the history on that. Steve-O says, Jared from Tone Wars sent me some Kemper profiles of his Red 7 and they were awesome. Cool, man. I actually may have to hit Jared up for those Red 7 profiles because I'd be really interested to check those out. Kyle, what's the Celestion equivalent to the WGS ET65? That would be, I'm pretty sure it's the GH65 or G12H. Is it the G12H65? Or is it the G1265? I think it's the G1265. G1265, yeah, I couldn't remember off the top of my head. So the original G1265 was made only for a few years in the early 80s. It was supposed to be a higher powered greenback. To my ears, it doesn't really sound like that. I own a quad of them in an old Ampeg cab. Cool speakers, but yeah, they don't necessarily sound the same, but the GT65 does sound good. It's a good sounding speaker. Definitely more neutral than a V30 for sure. Yeah, Michael says, how is the Silver Jubilee working for you? I actually did my dedicated playthrough video for the Silver Jubilee today. Actually, right before shooting or right before doing this live stream. And dude, yeah, I am super, super glad I finally got my hands on that amp because that amp is a lot of fun. It is definitely the most shapeable Marshall with the onboard EQ. If you guys are familiar with Marshalls, pretty much, you know, JCM 2000 and earlier series, the EQ doesn't do a whole lot. It got a little bit more responsive as they went on, but the EQ just didn't do a lot. Like, they didn't really shape the voice that much. The Jubilee is definitely a different story. The Silver Jubilee has a very responsive EQ section. The rhythm clip I found that I didn't initially check out when I first got the amp and that initial playthrough that I put up for you guys, the rhythm clip makes a big difference in the overall percussiveness and the clarity of the voicing too. I was playing on the lead clip and that's rounder, it's smoother, more bass, obviously, makes sense. You're going to want that as a lead player, but for me as a rhythm player, as somebody who wants those percussive palm mutes, that tightness and that chord clarity, the rhythm clip definitely does really, really well for that stuff and kind of just made me fall in love with the amp all over again. So I think you guys are going to see I really enjoyed playing through the Silver Jubilee in my playthrough. It was a really good amp. Mesqua, are you still drumming? No, unfortunately. I'm always drumming off and on. The reason that I'm not drumming right now, though, is because I just don't have the space to have a kit set up. I have so much crap right now. The last 2 years that my channel has been a thing, I have done gear tours at the start of the new year. So there will be a 2023 gear tour where I take you through pretty much every piece of gear that I own. They're typically very long videos, but I have more than ever by a long shot. Like, I have so much stuff that it actually is kind of giving me anxiety when I'm trying to like move stuff around and organize it. I just have too much, man. I've got way too much, and I really need to try to make an honest attempt to pare down. I'm actually selling a lot of my drums because they've sat unused literally for, you know, almost 5 years. I've only had 2 different kits set up in the last 5 years, and I own 10, 12. I don't even remember, but I just sold one tonight. Somebody PayPal'd me the money and they're going to come pick it up next week. So that's one of many that need to go bye-bye. Yeah, I'm going to sell a bunch of my drum kits. Still would love to play drums. I love playing drums, but I just don't have the room to actually have a kit set up at the moment. So that's the unfortunate truth of the matter. I have a lot of cabs that I need to sell too that I have for sale. Cabs are hard to sell, especially 4x12 cabs, because not a lot of people have room for 412 cabs, and it's not something that I can ship. So those tend to sit when a lot of other stuff is selling. Dustin says Kyle is a speaker and amp library. Man, there are people who know a lot more than I do, and I don't always tend to get or remember the information correctly because I have a really bad memory. Even for stuff that I love, like guitar stuff, I tend to misremember things. Um, but yeah, I try. I try my best, honestly. Kendall H says, Kyle, have you tried using plugins with real cabs? Like, I like the results I get. I tried it one time, man, and it was not great. My experience was not great, but I think that was more the plugin itself than the actual just experience of playing a plugin through a power amp in a cab. I don't think that it. I don't think that it was necessarily that it was a plugin. I think it was the particular plugin. So something I can revisit in the future. Doesn't really interest me personally very much though, because I have so many physical amps that taking the time to route a setup and get all the latencies and stuff like that right to make it make sense, especially when I have a Kemper and a Quad Cortex, just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. You know what I mean? For other people, I definitely get it. If you have a power amp and you got a bunch of plugins, but you only have one or two real amps, it's fun to pump those plugins through a power amp and use it like a real amp. So Arthur says, Kyle, have you tried mixing speakers in the same cab to get unique tones? Arthur, yes, I have. Generally, I find that it doesn't work all that well. It kind of sounds cool at first, but then once you start putting different amplifiers through that cab, you tend to notice that certain amps favor certain speakers over the other, and it becomes kind of hard to dial the amp in balanced because you tend to dial it in to either one or the other speaker that is in the combination or in the cabinet, and it just kind of generally makes for a goofy experience in my opinion. A lot of people who are blending speakers though don't have a whole bunch of different amps to put through that cab. It's generally the opposite. They have, you know, they have one amp, one cab, or one amp, two cabs, two amp, two cabs. Not a whole lot of options. So that's why I tend to not like doing that. Just my personal preference though. I have found that I really like the Redback V30 combo though. That is a combo that I actually do really enjoy. Sahin, I'm sorry, man, if that's not how you pronounce your name, I apologize. But he says, I'm a drummer too. Very cool, man. The world needs more drummers for sure. I'm a terrible drummer, just like I'm a terrible guitarist, but I love to play and I love to make music. And, anybody who's on that same page is a good thing, in my opinion. Barry says, how long did it take you to gain all this knowledge, man? Very impressive. Every day, man. Still, I don't research stuff nearly as much as I used to. It is true what they say, when you make your hobby a job, it then becomes work. So researching amps and speakers and stuff it's not quite as fun as it used to be for me. And now literally when I'm researching, it's usually before I do a video to make sure that I get the information right and I don't make a total fool of myself, because I've done that on a couple of videos, not knowing or misrepresenting something that I'm talking about in a video, and I don't like doing that. I want to give you guys correct information, so I will go back and try to read up on certain amps, especially if I'm going to be giving some sort of backstory or history on them. But yeah, for the last 12 years, dude, it's been almost a daily thing where I'm reading about guitar gear, reading people's opinions about guitar gear. For a long time, I watched YouTube videos about guitar gear constantly, and I still do consume a lot of guitar related content on YouTube. So it's one of those things that I will probably never stop researching. It is I gotta find time to break away from guitar stuff, or it'll drive me insane, if you guys can believe that. But it's like, something that I used to hardly have any time for, and I used to really look forward to the time that I would have playing guitar, messing around with guitar gear. Well, that's now my 9 to 5 in a way. So no matter what, no matter how much you love something, it will change your perspective on it. It's just a part of life. It's something that I have come to accept. There are days when I don't care about guitar gear at all anymore. But then there are days like today where I literally had the best time that I've had in a while, just sitting down and chugging away on an amp, like experiencing an amp in the room. So like anything in life, it's going to come in waves. And luckily right now I'm very into guitar gear again. Over the summer I was not, but right now I am. So it's been fun to kind of, reignite the passion, especially when I'm doing this full time. Sam says, do you have a video on the precision drive? No, I don't. A lot of you guys have asked me for that. So, let me know in the comments of this live stream after it's over if that's something that you guys want to see. If you guys want to see a video on the precision drive, I will do a video on the precision drive because I try to give you guys what you want. Unfortunately, I can't pronounce precision drive very well, so you guys are going to have to put up with that in the video. But otherwise, I make the stuff that you guys want to see. So you guys just got to tell me that you want to see it. Brad Olson says, keep an eye out for a Marshall 6100 30th anniversary head. They are affordable and unique within the range. So, Brad, I've had an opportunity at those amps a couple of times, but they are notoriously unreliable, and the parts to repair them, if they do break down, are very, very hard to get. So that is the reason why I haven't jumped on the 6100s that I have come across before, because they're kind of, they're priced. When I've come across them, they've been priced at the top of the market, and I tend to not like to pay top of the market prices for anything, let alone something that has a reputation for breaking down and basically being useless when they break. So got to keep stuff like that in mind. Flaming Trocar says, imagine if Kyle reviewed drum gear. I tried to do a little drum channel for a little bit. It's really hard to run one YouTube channel successfully, let alone multiple. So I think that is a pipe dream for me, as much as I'd love to do it. I just don't think I'll ever have the time to focus on two channels. I really want this one to be successful in the long run, so I got to focus on it. Arthur says, it's time for a warehouse for your gear. You're not wrong. My ultimate goal is to open a studio here in Erie. So it's kind of what I'm hoping for long term. Arthur says, you may be interested in a kit. I have plenty of kits available. Unfortunately, I don't want to ship full drum kits because shipping full drum kits is an absolute nightmare. So unless you're local or you're willing to come get it from me, man, it's not going to be possible, unfortunately. Crowkeeper Studio says, with modeling software taking over the recording space, do you think that the metal community is lacking variety that is present in owning different amps and cabs? No, man, I think it's the complete opposite. I think it's an incredibly awesome time to be a guitarist. I think that the metal community probably at this point has more amps to choose from than anybody. The fact that I have 72 amps, 73 amps, I don't own amps unless they can do high gain chug tones. I've got 73 amps that can do high gain chug tones. So, plenty of variety, man. And cabs and speakers, dude. There's so many to choose from these days, and there's a lot of good choices. So, I just got to say that I think that it is kind of the opposite. I think that we have more choices than ever, to the point where we actually kind of almost have option paralysis. I know a lot of people who watch my channel have option paralysis because there's so many good choices at every price range that sometimes it's hard to come to a decision. So it's a good time to be a guitarist, though. Those are very first world problems. Those are good problems to have. Playing drums is fun. I agree, Steve-O. Michael says, I wish I could see your drum gear, but I'm too far, and packing shipping is a biatch. Have room for 412s. It's getting them here that's the problem. Understood, dude. Papa Smurf says, Kyle, I have a new DSL 100HR. I use it with a PV Butcher cab with G12K 85s. When you do a vid on this amp, could you do a segment with the same cab? I'd like to see how you dial it in with that cab. So Papa Smurf, dude, as much as I'd like to do that, I like to keep all of my amp demos on the same vintage 30 cab. That way, I'm keeping as much the same from amp to amp as I possibly can on my dedicated amp videos. That way, most of the differences that you're hearing from video to video come down to the amp itself. And that way, my amp videos are a good comparison across the board. So if someone comes to my channel, they're looking at a Bogner Uberschall versus a multi-watt dual rectifier versus a Dietzel Herbert. Well, they can check my videos on all three of those amps, and they are all going to be generally through the same cabinet with the same microphone. And generally, I've been using my Belliger Typhon for pretty much every amp demo that I've done in the last 6 months or so. So really, the only variable in those situations is my playing on that particular day and the amp itself. So I would like to kind of keep that running. But I will definitely try to, I'll try to mix up the cabs in some way because I love cabs and I love speakers. So utilizing more than just one cab with vintage 30s in it for most of my videos would be enjoyable for me and probably helpful for you guys too. Arthur Gonzalez says, I recently tried an IR with a real amp together. I don't know what I think. Shouldn't be any issue, man. It shouldn't be much different than playing an amp sim through an impulse response, honestly. Stinky Steve says, Kyle, good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out, Steve. Jason says, I use IRs with real amps in everything I do these days. Those 2 notes captors, it saves so much time in the studio. Oh, dude, Jason, yeah, for sure. That's, again, another point to it's a great time to be a guitarist because instead of having to rely on whatever you mic'd up in whatever situation you recorded in, when you take a direct signal from something like a 2 notes captor from your amp, you can now literally try it on any speaker combination, any mic combination that you possibly want after the fact. Sure, you're getting a static sound from the amp. The amp will not change, but you can now try it with any speaker, any mic combination that you could possibly dream of, because with all the impulse response packs out there, no matter what you're looking for, I guarantee you that there's an impulse response pack that covers it. And yeah, Jason, you are absolutely correct. There's no better way to shape your tone in a recording scenario than recording a real amp or even a plug-in where you can put an IR after that amp or that plug-in and just infinitely shape that tone, man. Most drummers are in at least 2 bands. Yes, they are. Dalton Peters says, Redbacks and V30s are fire. Yes, they are, dude. It's a great combo. One of the few combos that I have no intentions of changing out of the cab that it's in anytime soon. Beavis Christ says, hell yeah, drums are my first instrument, 32 years. Awesome, dude. Seriously. Drummers are weirdos. I can say that because I am a drummer and I'm also a weirdo. But, yeah, we're a different breed for sure. And playing drums, dude, is just, it's really fun. It's cathartic a lot of the time. Flaming Trocar? I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but it looks like it. It says, try jiu-jitsu. Cleans my mind. Clears your mind. That's what mountain biking did for me over the summer, but unfortunately, it's winter here in Erie, and there is no mountain biking to be had for the next few months. So, yeah, actually, a jiu-jitsu gym opened up right down the road from me recently, and my girlfriend spotted it because she's actually, we both are a big fan of MMA. We watch the UFC fights every Saturday night, fight nights and UFC cards. So we're fans, and she was the one who pointed out the jiu-jitsu gym, so we might be taking a look at that pretty soon here. I feel like I missed a whole lot of stuff. Hold on. Oh, man, I missed a lot of stuff. You guys are taking off on me here. Christian Ripper says, I want to see you do more pop punk stuff. I know we're all E-standard thrash riffs, but I know you love some pop punk. Yes, I do, man. I do love pop punk. I love old pop punk. I love new pop punk. I also love plosives, but for real, yeah, I do love pop punk. I need to learn some more riffs in that style. And then I can do more pop punk riffs in my videos and stuff. I've got no issue with doing that because I feel like a lot of my friends and a lot of the people who like the channel are into that stuff too. So it's I need to set aside some time to really actually play guitar and not just play gear. My camera died, so I got to grab a battery. But yeah, I need to set aside more time for that stuff, for learning more riffs, for expanding my playing. I tend to like to play the same riffs in my amp demos for, again, kind of the same reason that... Oh, you got to be kidding me. I just dropped my new battery on the floor. If you guys could see me, I'm kind of cornered myself here on the couch. But anyways... Yeah, I'm going to export this audio and I'm going to put it up as a podcast on Spotify and through DistroKid. So if you guys want to just listen to this and not have it be on YouTube, that is kind of the end goal with a lot of these podcasts. But anyways, what was the question? I forgot because I had to restart my camera. Let me find it again. Sorry, guys. I apologize. Rookie here. Oh, yeah, the pop punk stuff. Yeah, I'll work on it, man. I need to set aside some time to learn some new riffs. That's the main thing. What do we got next? Precision Drive would be nice to see. Okay, there's another one for the Precision Drive. Kevin R. says, what's another Les Paul you like besides your Wine Red Studio? My 1958 reissue, my 2002. It's before they made the reissues in the custom shop. The custom shop didn't exist yet, actually. But I have a 2002 R8, which is the 1958 reissue. It is probably the best guitar I own, to be completely honest. I love it. I find myself playing my Belligers a little bit more these days just because I like the longer scale. And they hold tune really, really well. They're very solid instruments, but every time I pick up that 1958 reissue, it's love all over again, dude. Like, I absolutely love that guitar. So that would be one of the Les Pauls that I really, really like that is not my Wine Red Studio. Hi Metalworks says, cheers. What's up, man? Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. If you guys would, hit the like button if you haven't already. 55 likes, 58 viewers. It's a slow night. That's fine because you guys are giving me tons of stuff to work off of here, so I appreciate it. Again, if you want to support the channel, affiliate links go a long way. Both Sweetwater and Zounds, if you guys shop with either of those companies, do me a favor. Just hit those affiliate links just because. That way, if you buy anything from either of those sites in the next 2 weeks, it helps the channel out. It helps me out. I would really appreciate it, and I thank you guys for the support. YouTuber says, I own two amps, but I need 4 or 5. Yep. It's a slippery slope, my friend. So be careful there. Arthur says, PV Butchers kill. They're cool amps for sure, especially if you like the 800 thing. They are definitely not high gain. But much like a JCM 800, you can really hit the front end hard if you want to gain them out. Arthur Gonzalez says, my 2 notes or even my Moore radar save a lot of time on recordings. Okay, I gotcha. Trying to keep it family friendly here. Yeah, I could see that for sure, man. Anything that you can capture just the amp and then throw the speaker on later makes a lot of sense in a recording scenario for sure. 2 Notes Captor X is your next purchase. It's a good purchase, man. It's a very useful tool for sure, especially if you're getting into that recording arena. Hotworks Gym has helped me clear my brain. I don't know what that is, Arthur. Is that like the hot yoga thing? Like, what is that? Excluding the 5150, what is my favorite PV amp? PV Triple X. PV Triple X. That's an easy answer for me. Triple X is an awesome amp. Honestly, maybe the Triple X2, because the Triple X2 is kind of like a slightly reworked, ever so slightly reworked JSX. And that lead channel is a little bit more angry in the mids. It cuts a little bit better, and it gives you the resonance and presence controls from the 5150, which are a huge deal in my opinion. So we'll say Triple X2. But, I mean, yeah, Triple X. Hip Metalwork says, Kyle, what did you think of the last main event? Oh, dude, that card was insane. He's talking about UFC 281. If you guys follow UFC, Alex Pereira beat Israel Adesanya. I really didn't think that it was going to happen, but it did. Adesanya pretty much outclassed Pereira for the entire match, then got caught in the last round. How many times have we seen that happen to champions recently? Happened to Kamaru Usman, happened to somebody else. I can't think right now. It happened to Glover Teixeira. That's who it happened to. So yeah, UFC is fun, man. If you get invested in it, if you get invested in the fighters and the characters, it's fun. There's a lot of payoffs in those championship fights for sure. Chandler Poirier, fight of the year though. That was an incredible fight. Would I try tuning down to drop A sharp in a video? You know, I won't rule it out, man, but it's not something that I'm going out of my way to do. I think that I was talking to Andrew Baina the other day, asking him if he has any tips on any 7-string starter riffs. Because every time I buy a 7-string, I just don't know what to do with it, and I sell it. So I kind of want to, next time I grab a 7-string, which I think is going to be soon because you guys are asking me to play 7 strings in my amp demos pretty often. I would like to work in a riff or two on those. I need to learn some 7-string riffs so I don't immediately go and sell my 7-string guitar. Mesa Sean, what's up, dude? Would you ever do metal lessons, techniques? Honestly, man, I just don't think I'm the guy for that. I am not a very good player. I'm not a knowledgeable player. You guys say that I'm really hard on myself about my playing. That's really kind. But I genuinely just don't think I'm a good player. I don't think that I'm in any position to be giving anybody lessons. I don't really know particular techniques. I can give you guys a palm muting lesson, and that's about it. You know, how palm mutes change the overall sound and how your right hand attack changes the overall sound on a guitar. But other than that, I am completely useless when it comes to lessons. So I apologize, guys. If I could offer you lessons, if I had the knowledge and the ability to offer you lessons, I absolutely would. I would love to do that. Unfortunately, I can't. But there are lots of guys that can. So, you know, just keep an eye on other YouTube content creators who do those things. I said do. But you guys know what I'm saying. There are a lot of other people that can give you metal guitar lessons on YouTube. Again, I would love to be able to provide that service for you. I'm just not the guy. I'm just not the guy to take lessons from, man. If anything, I need lessons in a bad way to improve my playing. Mesqua says, can't place his name, but you should watch that guy that's always been in Blondie's band that plays drums. I don't know who that is, man. Sorry. Precision Drive and Triple X. That sounds really bright and thin for me, Sam. But if you're tuning way down, I could see it being a really good combination. Stinky Steve says, there's so many riffs that I play that are very similar to what we wrote, played in a hardcore band in Brandon, Manitoba, Canada from 96 to 2001. Oh, that's cool, man. Well, I'm a hardcore dude at heart. I've been in the hardcore scene for the past 18 years now, man. Since I was 16 years old is when I went to my first hardcore show. So, yeah, been in a lot of hardcore bands over the years. Lots of influence from that side. Papa Smurf says, Kyle, at one point I got by with using just a PV musician, old solid state head as a pedal platform. It sounded good considering what it was. What's the worst rig you used or made work for you? You know, I got to be honest. Ever since I got my first 5150, I've always had good rigs, dude. Little backstory on me. When I started playing guitar, I was 13. My parents bought me a Squier Fat Strat, and I don't know if you guys remember the brand Rogue. I think they're still around, but at the time they made little guitar amps. And I had a little 30-watt Rogue guitar amp with a 10-inch speaker in it. And for a year, that is what I had. And then the next Christmas, my parents bought me a Crate 212. It was the GFX 212, which turns out not that bad of an amp. It actually sounds kind of good. But of course, at that time, I had no idea how to dial it in. And then after that, honestly, I kind of quit playing guitar for a while. Focused on drums in my later high school years. And then I actually had a disease in my hand. If you guys can tell, my pinky is really messed up. I ended up breaking my hand and breaking these two fingers a total of 6 times over the course of my junior and senior years in high school because I had a disease where I had what are called enchondromas on my hand, which are basically bone tumors that spread out the calcium lining on the outside of your bones and make them break really easily. So not only was I in a cast for 6 breaks over the course of 18 months on my left hand, but I ended up having to have surgery and, a pretty lengthy recovery on my left hand as well. So, with that being said, I kind of gave up on guitar for a little bit because I was in a cast for so long. That's why I started playing drums, because I could tuck a drumstick down in my cast when my hand and my fingers were constantly broken and kind of suffer through the pain of that. But, I literally, there's a gap from about 2000, it would have been about 2003 to 2010 where I just did not play guitar at all. So quite a long space. If you can, when I started playing guitar in 2001, and then I quit in like 2003, 2004 because of those bone breaks, and started playing drums. And then for a while, I just didn't play at all. There was a couple years where I just was not concerned with music at all. And then when, again, I got asked to tour Europe with a friend's band that turned out to be Represent, which is a straight edge hardcore band that I'm still in to this day. That was in 2009. That's when I started playing guitar again. Why did I just tell all you guys that? There was a reason that I completely forgot. Because Papa Smurf asked me, what's the worst rig that I ever used? Worst rig I used was honestly my first one, man, and I've been pretty fortunate since then, to be completely honest. I haven't had too much terrible gear to work with, other than my Madison Divinity, which broke down on me 3 times on tour through a through a Behringer Ultra Stack cab. That was pretty terrible. But even then, that's nowhere near as bad as, trying to make do with a PV Musician as a clean platform with pedals through it. Paul Natter, what's up, dude? He says, I need to do this in a smoker's jacket. I don't know if that would be very straight edge of me, but yeah, maybe we can find some funny outfits to do these podcasts in. Hope you guys are enjoying this, by the way. Again, very, very light on viewers, but you guys are providing me plenty of content and plenty of questions to work off of, so I appreciate that. Hopefully these streams will grow in the future. And again, I'm going to put these up on streaming platforms for you guys to listen to too, as well. And hopefully they'll get a little bit more structured as I go on. I really would like to actually talk about specific topics that are predetermined and then go into the questions in the future. But it's really easy to divert my attention because I have ADD. So not hard to get me off track. Steve-O says, with my Kemper, I'm finding I prefer the mid-gain profiles and then hitting them with an overdrive as opposed to a gained out profile. Yeah, it makes sense. Probably a little bit more clarity, a little bit more openness. Jim Simmons says, Kyle, we need a speaker standard for combo and 412 speaker cabinets for modeling processors like Axe-Fx, blah, blah, blah. Maybe a natural sounding Celestion speaker. Jim, there is actually a Celestion modeling speaker. What is it called? I had a pair of them, and they're basically Celestion speakers that are meant to be used with a clean power amp and a modeler or a profiler. The heck is it called? They were like 75 watts. Oh, FX200. Yeah, FX200 is what I was thinking of. And they're 200 watts, not 75 watts. There's quite a bit of difference there. But yeah, that is what I recommend for you, man. I am actually going to drop a Zounds link for you here. So if you're interested, click my Zounds affiliate link and then come back and click this link, because I will make money. I'm just being transparent with you. I will get a little bit of a boost from it. But yeah, here is that speaker. It is now in the live chat. So if that's something you're interested in, hit my affiliate link and then grab that thing, man. But it is a transparent modeling speaker. Will a 250 pot darken up a bright pickup? The Think 500 is in there now. They're DiMarzio Dark Matter 2 pickups. Yes, it absolutely will, man. That'll send more of your high frequencies to ground, and it will round off that top end quite significantly, especially if you change both pots, your tone and your volume, to 250K. It will make a big difference. So yes, it does matter. Yeah, Kemper also has its own cab. There's the Kemper Cone cabinet. So keep that in mind as well. Barry says, what about a baritone? Otherwise, yeah, I'm definitely open to a baritone guitar for sure. Z's guitar account, how palm mutes chug. Yeah, that's my lesson, man. That's pretty much it. The TC Mimic, Sahin, that is actually a pedal that I am very, very interested in as well. I think I'm actually going to grab one pretty soon here, just in case we do have a Represent show coming up, because I'm now the only guitarist in Represent. I've actually been the only guitarist for quite some time, and a Mimic pedal for a stereo setup with one guitarist would be a great way to thicken up the sound. I'm thinking anyways, that's what it seems to be made for. So I will definitely do a demo on the pedal if I do grab one. Scott Campbell, can the Splon Competition do a good brown sound? Absolutely, man. Splon Competition absolutely can do a good brown sound. YouTuber says, I didn't know you were that old. Do I have grandkids? Not yet. I don't even have kids, man. But I am 34 years old, in case anybody else was wondering. So, Mesqua says, seen Iron Maiden, Saxon, and Fast Away in 83 when I was 18 in Little Rock, Arkansas. You've got a couple years on me, my friend. Did I see Ola England Chugometer? It measures the chugginess of your rig. Yeah, I saw that. But is that something that's for sale? If it is, I don't know. We'll see. I don't like biting on other YouTubers' style. They do their thing. I do my thing. We're all kind of doing the same thing anyways, I guess, so it doesn't really matter. We're all doing the same things, but with different personalities, I guess, right? Nothing I'm doing here is original. Z's guitar account, bruh, if you get a 7 again, tune a half step down and learn some Meshuggah and Nevermore. I could probably do that, man, and thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate that, dude. Yeah, I will definitely look into some Meshuggah riffs for sure, because I feel like Meshuggah is the 7-string, super percussive, riffy band. So it's probably a good point. Chris Grice says, what do you think would pair with the V30 better than the Jensen Nighthawk? Eminence DV77 or Celestion G12 T75? It's going to be up to you, man. Not up to me. You got to try it for yourself and see which one you like, because everybody is going to have a different opinion. I personally generally don't like pairing speakers, and I have no idea what the Nighthawk sounds like because I've never tried one. I've never tried any Jensen speakers, to be completely honest with you. So I know that they do have some newer speakers that are kind of aimed at the metal crowd. Would love to try them. If anybody at Jensen sees this, you guys want to get a hold of me, please do. Would love to check your stuff out, but unfortunately, as of right now, I don't really think I can help with that question. Z's guitar account, it's always Narco Synthesis. I am guessing that's a Nevermore or a Meshuggah song. Protect your left hand as much as you can. Broken the right hand a few times. Yep, it happens, man. Appreciate you, Papa Smurf. I try. All right. So we got lots of people talking in the chat, so that's good. I'm trying to look for any questions to answer that maybe I missed. You'd rather play drums for me than Ola any day. Okay, man, that's cool. I appreciate you. Ola's great though, but I'm glad. I'm glad you're into my riffs. I'll say that, and I appreciate you hanging out. And I would love to have a drummer to actually play with for my own riffs. Right now, Bushido Code, our drummer, we recently, well, we were gonna let him go, but then he quit. So, but yeah, that was kind of like a mutual thing. So yeah, Bushido Code's been kind of dead in the water for a little bit until we find a new drummer. Human Animal, my hardcore band, love playing in that band, but I'm also not one of the songwriters in that band, at least not yet, because I'm a fairly newer member to the band. So they write completely differently than the types of riffs that I normally write, a lot less thrashy. But yeah, I would love to have a drummer to bounce some thrash riffs off of here for sure. So, Mike Wagner, howdy Kyle, was just finishing up and happened to see you were hanging out tonight. Everybody go do me a favor, go to Facebook, look up Wagner Amp Repair. If you guys need an amp tech, if you guys need consultation on what might be wrong with your amp, Mike is the guy to go to. He is incredibly knowledgeable. He's fixed, Mike, if you're still hanging out, how many amps have you fixed for me now? It's got to be 60, 70, something like that. I buy a lot of broken amps at dirt cheap prices, and then I have Mike fix them for me. But I also have a lot of amps break down, usually because they are poorly packaged from Guitar Center, and I have to take them over to Mike to get them repaired, and then work out a deal with Guitar Center to make it make sense because, yeah, Guitar Center destroys a lot of amps and guitars, unfortunately. So, anyways, yeah, my Wagner Amp Repair over on Facebook. Again, Mike is a super knowledgeable guy. In fact, I'm going to drop a link right here in the chat. And again, if you guys need amp repairs, you don't have a tech, you feel comfortable shipping if you're not local, Mike will take care of you. He's a great dude, super knowledgeable, usually is able to answer just about any question you could possibly dream of. Takes my questions all the time. I'm sure that I've annoyed him on more than one occasion, but he's always super responsive. Mike says over 70 amps. Whew. Or pushing 70 amps. Yeah. Yep. We've done a lot of business together, man. It's been a great relationship, though, so I appreciate you and hope that anything that I do can drive a little bit more business to your way because you deserve it, dude. Mesqua says, heard you can buy Harley Benton in the U.S. now. Yes. Actually, Andrew Baina pointed me to their Reverb store. They actually have a Harley Benton Reverb store of all the U.S. in-stock items that they have, which are not many. I believe it's something like 70 right now. And if you guys know Harley Benton, you know that they have a ton of stuff. But, yeah, if I might do a little video on that, actually, and just kind of call some attention to it and see if there's anything. I've been curious about Harley Benton's guitars for a long time because they are dirt cheap. Seems like a lot of people who review them give them very favorable reviews, but they all seem to be kind of paid reviews. You know, say what you will about paid reviews. I try to make it on my channel where even if I'm being paid for a review, I kind of put it in the contract that I have to be able to give my honest thoughts or I'm not interested in doing the review because I'm not willing to sell my honesty. And, you know, I'm not willing to sell your guys' trust in my opinion, period. So take that as you will. I know not everybody's like that. I know that there are some people that are like that do, you know, Henning Pauly is a great example of somebody who, even when they're getting paid, are not afraid to tell you how they feel about something. And that's what I like about Henning. That is something that I am definitely trying to make sure stays, I stay true to you guys on my channel, not the companies. It's about you guys. It's about me making a fair review of a product and giving you guys my honest opinions. So, Mike says, best thing to happen with me and amps is what? Sorry, man. I think I missed something. You retracted a message, so I'm not sure what you're saying. If you mean getting in touch with me, awesome, dude. I'm very happy to hear that. Yes, I am an amp psycho, so of course, naturally, you're gonna have a lot of business. But if you mean Guitar Center trashing amps, that would make a lot of sense too. Liked the page. All right, that's my man, Z. I appreciate you. Liked on Facebook. All right, you guys are awesome. Mike Wagner says, no repair videos, though I take lots of photos of the work. I do more so now since I have a page up. Yeah, Mike is always posting stuff that he has repaired, whether it be for me or somebody else. So you guys can see Mike's work firsthand from the pictures that he posts over on his page. Mike says, hooking up with you, taken out of context, that could sound terrible, but I know what you mean, Mike. And yeah, man, it's been a very mutually beneficial relationship because not only have you fixed a lot of amps for me and asked a lot of questions or answered a lot of questions, saved me a lot of money, but I've also gotten some really great deals because I bought amps knowing that you could fix them for me, and I could make out even after you fix them, you get business. I still get a great deal on an amp. So it's been a very mutually beneficial relationship, my friend, and I appreciate all the work that you do for me. David Morgan says, I have one Harley Benton, and overall it's not bad, but did take some work on my part to get it well set up. For the price point, Kyle, you might be able to make a video, though. Yeah, man, I would have to imagine that any guitar at that price point is gonna require some sort of work out of the box. I mean, some of their guitars go under $200. That's very, very cheap for a guitar. So can't imagine that it's gonna be of any sort of significant quality. That price point, you're almost guaranteed to have to fix something or adjust a lot of things out of the box in order to make it, as playable as it can be. We'll put it that way. Arthur says, I liked the page a month or so ago when you last mentioned it on a live stream. Awesome, Arthur. Thank you very much. Papa Smurf says, what amp would you consider being the biggest letdown? Whether in terms of being very high gain or just not living up to its expectations. I would say biggest letdown for me was the Dietzel VH4. I actually just answered that question in a forum the other day. And by the other day, I mean earlier today. There's a new gear forum called The Gear Forum, which is an offshoot of the Gear page. And I have an Ask Me Anything thread there, which is where people can come onto that thread. They can ask me any question that they have for me, and I will do my best to answer it. That was a question that I got earlier today, and the Dietzel VH4 was really the first amp to come to mind when I answered that question earlier, and now it's the first amp that comes to mind. A lot of people made me think that I was going to love that amp because I like the Splon stuff. Splons are very stiff, very percussive. You really have to dig in to get the most out of them, but they're very rewarding amps to play in that matter. People said the same thing about the VH4. Yes, it is very stiff, but I find it to be a very, very dry amp and not tight. A lot of people describe it as a very tight amp. I don't think it's tight at all. I think it has a very kind of woody low-mid thing going on, and it doesn't sound good, in my personal opinion. Just not for what I do anyways. Obviously, there are people who have made the amp sound great. There are people that can make any amp sound great, and that's a testament to their playing skill. But for me, I'm yawning. I think it's about time to wrap this one up, guys. But for me, it is it was just overall a disappointment. It's not very saturated. It's very dry. It's got a very round mid profile that is not aggressive. And overall, I just didn't find it to be a very enjoyable amp to play. And I was really disappointed with the tone because people made me believe that based on other amps that I like, that I was going to love the VH4. I did not love the VH4. I didn't like it at all. And that was an amp that I could not get rid of fast enough once I had it. So, what are your favorite pickups for the most brutal tone? Dave Klein. Lace dropping gain, lace dissonant aggressor. If I'm like, not necessarily for my tone. My tone is more mid forward, and I feel like brutal tones aren't necessarily. I guess it all depends who you ask. But I think more low mid guttural when I think brutal. So the dropping gain does that very well. The dissonant aggressor does have a nice low mid grunt to it and stays very clear. So either of those I would think would probably be my choice. Yeah, I think so. Those are two pretty mean sounding pickups. The lace stuff is really cool for that stuff. Keith asks, have you ever played the Bad Cat Lynx? It's their high gain amp. No, I did demo a Bad Cat Cougar. A Cougar. That's what I used to call my husky. Rest in peace, Colby. Cougar. Cooby Dooby. Anyways, I'm obviously getting tired. The Bad Cat 50 Cougar was a really cool amp. That was their import amp, one of them. And it was fairly affordable at the time that they released it. They can be had for pretty cheap on the used market. I think I got mine for like $450. Really cool amp. Definitely sort of in the modded Marshall camp. Very tight and percussive. One of the few amps that I liked better without a boost. A boost actually tightened it up too much. But yeah. Sam Isdat said, Egnator Vengeance was a big letdown for me. Yeah, Sam, got to agree. Egnator Vengeance was a big bummer. Looked cool. Seemed like it was going to be something that was up my alley, but overall was very disappointing. Arthur says, Kyle, when you run your live stream guitar rig, is your SM57 going into a mixer or is it right into a DAW? It's not even into a DAW, man. It's going right into my interface and into my streaming software, which is OBS. So there's absolutely no processing. There's no processing on my videos. There is no processing on my live stream. So when I'm playing through an SM57, if I'm just sitting there playing, I'm not processing that signal whatsoever. If it's a finished track, like if it's a demo track for a plugin or something like that, there is some processing, obviously, to make it sit in the mix. But I try to do as little processing as I can. That way you guys are getting a more accurate representation of what the plugin actually sounds like. Is it the best for that mix? No. But I try to make it where it works for the mix without coloring the tone too much to the point where it doesn't sound like the original anymore, if that makes sense. What the heck happened? Flaming Trocar says, my problem is I can't pass up a killer deal. Bought a powered Kemper for $400? How? That's insane, man. I can't, man. I don't even do that good most of the time. Mesa F100 for $300. So many others. Then I hear the good stuff you review. How do you control yourself? I don't. I have very little self-control when it comes to good deals. But luckily, I have enough self-control that I can sell most of the stuff that I don't need, especially if it's doubles. For instance, last week, I bought a PV Triple X2, came with a Randall XL cab. I bought the half stack for $800, sold the Triple X2 for $800, got a free XL cab. Bought a 6505 Plus half stack, which was the 6505 Plus, and the 6505 412 slant cab with the pointy PV logo on it. It's one of the newer PV cabs. and sold and it came with a monoprice tuner and a Boss NS2. So I bought that for $800. I sold the 6505 Plus for $800. So again, free Boss NS2, free PV412 cab. If you guys are wondering why I have so many cabinets, that's why. I buy a lot of half stacks where people have it priced for basically the price of the head and give the cab away for free. So I've got probably at least 15 cabs that I've gotten for free. Probably more than that. So 2 in 1 week, for instance. It all depends. I can't pass up a good deal either. So some other people talking about the VH4 in here. VH4 is not like a Splon. My Kemper has a VH4 profile. It was okay. Yeah, no, it is not like a Splon. You are correct there, my friend. Pete Dog says, I had a VH4 for 10 years. Thought it sounded best with a 7-string and sold it. Okay. Mike says, I still need to try the high watt high gain 50 or a Red Bear Mark 120. Yes, I would love to try both of those amps, Mike. Those are both very, very hard amps to come by, as you are very well aware. So if anybody ever sees one of those amps for sale, a high gain 50 or a Red Bear Mark 120, MK 120, whatever it's called, please let me know. I would love to try them here on the channel. Did I miss something? Somebody said good night, Mike. James said, I enjoyed this live stream. It's 3:23 a.m. here in the UK at the moment, and I'm listening to the live stream while working. Forklift driver. Cool, man. Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed the live stream. Like I said, guys, I'm going to put this up on streaming services. So if you guys want to check this out on Spotify, Apple Music, blah, 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 moving forward, whenever I do these podcasts, they will be up for streaming on those services and not just as a YouTube live stream. So if you want to listen to it after the fact, you can. But it's more fun to be part of the live stream because then you can get in on the conversation. So David Morgan says, Kylapalooza / Belligerent Gear Fest when? Sometime, man. We'll make it happen sometime. I really did have hopes of putting together some sort of amp fest or get together this year, but it just wasn't in the cards, dude. I tend to get very optimistic and very overly ambitious when it comes to certain things, and then I take on too much stuff and I run out of energy and I get burnt out, and that's pretty much a constant cycle that I do my entire life. I do get really motivated to do a lot of things. I get really excited about it, and unfortunately those things pile up and I collapse under the weight of them because I'm just not dumb, or I'm not smart enough to say when or say no. But yeah, something I want to work on in the future. I definitely want to get some sort of amp fest, gear fest, not gear fest because that's what Sweetwater does, but some sort of amp get together here in Erie, make it a yearly thing. Doesn't have to be a big thing as long as we get enough people to pay for the venue and pay for whatever transportation it costs me to get the amps over to whatever venue that we end up renting out. I'll be happy with that. I think that would be a lot of fun. A powered Kemper for $400, you need a deal like that. Yeah, powered Kemper for $400 is insane, dude. Human Animal EMS says, you look sleepy, buddy. You are correct. I am tired. This live stream has gone much longer than I initially thought that it would. Dave Klein says, dude, you should try a Randall V2 with different boosts in front. I need to try a Randall V2, period. I've never actually gotten to play that amp, but it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of them floating around. Barry says, what is the next amp that you are hoping to locate? That's a good question, dude. Man, the Wizard Modern Classic 2 has been at the top of my list for a long time. So I really think that I need to track one of those down. I do. But at the same time, I really want to try a Monomyth Skeleton Key very badly. Would love to try that amp. So that's pretty close to the top of the list. Would love to try some of the MLC stuff. Would love to try the MI audio stuff. As soon as I start thinking about it, I'm like, man, there's not many amps left for me to try. That's incorrect. There's a lot of amps left for me to try out there for sure. And a lot of new amps at that. We were just talking about the Red 7 stuff. Love to try the Red 7 stuff. Yeah, man. There's a lot. There's even some Marshall amps that I haven't played yet. Haven't played the AFD slash model. I would love to try the AFD slash model. Haven't tried the Zach Wild signature one yet, which I mean, I don't think that it's that much different from a regular 800, but I like all the flavors, man. I like trying everything. That's why I own every iteration of the 5150. They're all just a little bit different, but I don't know. I like getting into the nitty gritty and checking out the different stuff. So, yeah, I think Modern Classic 2 is still at the top of the list for me right now, though. It's definitely still an amp that I really want to get my hands on. Dude, I bought a Wizard 212 cab today from Guitar Center's website. They had it listed for $469, which not a great deal, but you don't see Wizard stuff come up very often, and I haven't actually purchased any new gear for myself in a little while, other than those free guitar cabs. Don't really count because I didn't spend any money on them, I guess. But yeah, I haven't really actually purchased a piece of gear for myself in... This is going to sound ridiculous. It's been, a month and a half. I bought a PRS 2x12 Stealth limited edition cab, used off Guitar Center's website for $400. But that was a month and a half ago. So yeah, it really hasn't been that long. That's kind of stupid. But that's me. That's how I roll. I like to buy gear. Definitely unnecessary at this point. But yeah, I bought the Wizard because I just wanted to try it. Cabs make a big difference, and I've been pleasantly surprised by different cabs before. What am I missing? Dave replying to my Amp Fest thing, I'm very likely in for such a thing. I've not been to PA in a minute, so it's a good excuse for me to make the drive from Chicago. Cool, man. If you're willing to drive from Chicago, that's an honor for me. I will definitely try to put something together at some point. I would love to do that. I've always dreamed of throwing an amp get together, even before I had the YouTube channel, so definitely something I'd like to do. Bob Ertz, when do you find your deals? Everyone in my area plays through crates. You just got to search. You got to be relentless with that search, man. And not only locally, I search online websites too. Arthur says he digs the name Human Animal. Thanks, man. The guys got it from a Biohazard song. So if you guys are into Biohazard, the dudes in my band are really into Biohazard. And they named their band after a Biohazard song. Jose D says, do you have any tips for potato recording myself? I have a phone and a computer, but no means to get an interface and mic at the moment. Just use your phone, man. Use your built-in mic on your phone and use your camera. And if you're just trying to record riffs for yourself or whatever, what I used to do before I had a whole recording interface is I would take my phone, I would lean it with the mic end up against my guitar speaker, and I would play at low volumes, and I would record it that way. And honestly, it turned out a lot better than having my phone somewhere in the room and the sound having to travel all the way over to the phone and have the room kind of create all the reflections and stuff and muck it up. So that's what I would suggest. Z's Guitar Account, thank you for the super chat, man. That's your second one tonight. You don't have to do that, dude, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much for helping the channel out and for donating. He said, if you do an Amp Fest, I'll bring my fancy guitars, Mayones, Aristides, Vandermeij. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but and a few others. Cool, dude. That would be great. That would be awesome. I am not responsible for anything that happens to those guitars at said Guitar Fest, whatever you want to call it. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, that would be cool. I had a Mayones for a second. Didn't bond with it, but I just think that it was the particular guitar. It was very, very bright. Would love to try another one in the near future. Same with the Aristides. Would love to check that out. And that third brand I have never even heard of. So you are definitely far fancier than I am, sir. Arthur Gonzalez, I need a Jake E. Lee amp in my life. Yeah, good luck, dude. Those were a very, very small run, and they are very expensive on the secondhand market now. Steve-O's going to grab a wizard profile from Amp Guru. Do it up, man. People love Chris's profiles, so I have to assume that they are very, very good. He keeps sending them to me, and I keep forgetting to download them, to be completely honest with you guys. So I haven't actually had a chance to try his profiles out. But pretty much anybody who is in the space that I am in that does the Kemper and Quad Cortex profile thing, they all swear by his profiles. So he's got to be doing something right. Heavy Metal Chaplain says, I tried my Blue Guitar amp on Iridium with a TS9 instead of its built-in boost and love the tone I get through the classic mode. Cool, man. Speaking of, I asked Zounds today if they could send me a Blue Guitar Amp 1 Iridium. So, hopefully they say yes. I'm actually looking at my email now to see if they responded to me. But you guys have been asking me for that one forever. So, hopefully they are willing to send me one out to check out with you guys. Okay, so give me just a second. Sorry, I'm reading a different email now. Business things. So anyways, yeah, back to the podcast. Couple more questions, quick questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. Ghostline99, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate the kind words. Z's guitar account has a Hagen. That's an amp that I need to get my hands on. I would love to try a Dietzel Hagen. It's actually quite high on my list to check out. Steve-O says, great podcast. Thanks, dude. Hope you guys enjoy this. Again, it's something that I would like to do regularly. I don't know if it's going to be Monday nights or not. Got to discuss that with the fiance because we tend to spend our nights together. But a lot of you guys don't like it when I do live streams or podcasts during the day. Let me know what you guys think would be best because, I would prefer to do it during the day. That way it doesn't cut into my time that I designate for not working on the channel at night, but we got to do what we got to do, right? All right, yeah, the Dietzel Hagen, I commented on that. Kyle, how many guitars do you own? I don't know offhand. Close to 40. It's got to be close to 40. So I have 2 9-guitar racks in my immediate view. So that's 18, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 27. I've got 5 in my room upstairs. That's 32. And then I have a few in my basement room over there. Not quite 40, but pretty close. Pretty close to 40. Too many. Far too many, man. Nobody needs this many. Sam Isdat says, remember the early to mid 90s when you could get badass PV tube amps used for $350? Pepperidge Farms remembers. I don't remember the early to mid 90s because I was like 3 to 7 years old in the mid 90s. But in the early 2010s when I got into guitar gear, you could still get PV VTMs for $250 all day long. So I do remember that. Papa Smurf says, Kyle, I tried a couple JVMs out over the past few years. Don't know why, but they sound weird to me for metal anyway. I wonder why so many people swear by them. Maybe to justify their purchase. Man, everybody has different tastes, I personally don't like the JVM either, and I still get hate comments on my JVM 410 video to this day because I didn't like the amp very much. So, yeah, I mean, people don't take into account personal taste, but yeah, I didn't like it either. Very cold, very compressed for a Marshall anyways. Marshalls are generally thin sounding amps when you compare them to like rectifiers and a lot of the modern metal amps, but the JVM 410 is really thin. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I've never tried a comparison guitar, Omar. Sorry, dude. Never even got my hands on one. But yeah. All right, guys. 2 hours. We are at the 2 hour mark exactly right now. 2 hours. So with that being said, I'm going to probably go fall asleep because I'm really tired. I'm normally in bed by 10:15, 10:30, so it's literally past my bedtime. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys so much for hanging out is what I'm trying to get out of my mouth. Tonight, it's been a lot of fun. I love answering your guys' questions. I did not talk about the topics that are in the title of this video whatsoever, but that's okay. Again, this is going to go up on Spotify, Apple Music, all the other podcasting places. If you guys want to help the channel, as I have said before, affiliate links in the description go a long way for that. Zounds, Sweetwater, those are the ones that really count. Appreciate you guys that do support the channel. And yeah, again, thanks for hanging out. Hope you have a great night. Don't think I'm going to post a video tomorrow. Probably going to have one up Wednesday. So I will see you guys Wednesday. Until then, hit the like button on this one and check out the video that I posted this morning of the Westminster Effects Piper Drive because that's a really, really great overdrive. Something goofy happened with the upload of that video and YouTube completely nerfed the reach of it. So it's got like no views on it, which is really, really frustrating. So if you guys could, if you haven't watched that video, do me a favor and click on that video. The pedal is actually really, really good. So I hope that people see it. But yeah, thanks guys. Have a great night and we'll see you next time.